You know, somebody went to our center once in Los Angeles from New York. Can you hear me? And they said it's so interesting because it seems to be that even though I'm one part of the United States and my center is in the other part, it seems that the energy is so good here. It's so good here. And I said, because that's the energy you will find in the center. You'll find it in Moscow, and in Sao Paulo, and in Mexico, and in every center of the world, you will find the same type of energy. You know why? Because the whole idea was to bring a unity into each community and to tie it together with everybody else. I believe, and I said that today, that we are on the final frontier. Rabbi Shimon gave us the tools. He gave us the path. He gave us the light to go forward. But the words of Rabbi Shimon were so concealed that most people couldn't take and comprehend them. It took the pioneers that came after him, the Ariya Kodesh, Rabbi Ashlag, and certainly the Rav in the center, who has probably done the most work. But the problem with the work that we've done is it took a long time for people to understand what the heck we are, because we didn't fit into a box. Things in life have to fit into a box. They have to be either a religion or a path. We had no particular box. And therefore, it was very difficult for people to know and to understand what we're about. Well, as you've noticed, and I'm sure those of you that have traveled with us has seen the tremendous growth that we've had throughout the world. And nobody went out there, by the way, nor me or Rav. When we first started, we found a student, we took him into our home, we trained him, lived with us in our house, and sent him out to find people, sent him out to be able to give to people. And we started one by one, and one by one, and one by one. And suddenly we turned around and said, hey, where did all those people come from? It was not, you know, we've had people come to us and tell us about how we have to make a business plan, how we have to decide, we need a 5-year vision, how to make the center work. Well, Rabbi Shimon had his own ideas. And his ideas, I think, outweighed the business plan. Yeah, probably people should have a plan in their life. But I have to tell you that when the Zohar was written so many years back, the time wasn't open yet. The light that is now available in the cosmic. If you look around, you know, it says that man controls nature. How do we know that? It says before the Israelites left Egypt, he gave him the first idea, and that was to bless the new moon. I mean, there are so many things far more important than blessing the moon. How's about thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill? I mean, there's so many shalt nots that are so much greater than going and blessing in the moon. So why did he give us this particular precept even before we left Egypt? Because what he was saying isn't that we need to bless the moon. What he was saying is that the light that is revealed by the moon is our light, because we are the moon. The sun bears light, but the moon is only a receiver. And the further we get closer to that force, the more we can change. Meaning that when it says that we can bless the moon, it means that he gave us in that space the ability to change nature, the ability to see things and make them different because we realize that we can do that. That's what he told us. Rabbi Shimon was able to do that. The people of the Tanaic period were able to do that. Why? Because in those times, They had such a bond that they could literally resurrect the dead. The reason that today we are getting closer and closer into that reality is because the cosmic is open. The energy that's out there now is opening up to the ability to grow more and more on a spiritual level. How do we know that? The same way as I said that we have the power to control nature, we also unfortunately had the power to destroy ourselves and nature. And therefore you see the earthquakes and the volcanoes and the floods and all the natural things that are happening around us. And they're happening basically as a very, very direct wake-up call. It is telling us that yes, we can change nature for the better and for the common good, but it needs our effort and it needs our consciousness. And so what happens when these things start to happen? People start waking up. They start saying, wait a second, am I only like cattle that live, reproduce, and die? Or is there a reason for my existence? Are there things that I can do to make the world better because I exist in it? This is the time of the fruit of the Zohar. When we can take the learning inside of it and produce it and direct us into our lives, so that not only is it just something that we learn, but something that we work on and something that we live by. The whole concept, the idea that it's for tomorrow, but for today, is peace through people, but together we can, is something that is a concept that we're working on. Because our idea is not only to have Kabbalah centers all over the world, but to teach it to the priests and to the Muslims and to each and every place in their own places, to their own people, through their own ways. Because if we can make that available, can you imagine a world where each person knows that all of us are a spark of the same light, irregardless of the modality of prayer? We can hopefully change hatred. And by so doing, we can alter the course of peace in our world. Because there are only two ways that the world ends, as it says in the Zohar. One is through the world of Oi, and in that world is all the negativity, all the illnesses, all the lack of all the things that you can think about, and multiple other things that I truly don't want to talk about. But if we shake and wake the people that are still asleep and have them understand that we can live in that world called Ashrei, of praise. Because all you need to do to be a part of that world is to become conscious. When you go to sleep at night, to say to yourself, have I done something with X amount of hours of my day? Okay, I've gone to work, I've come home, I've taken care of my kids, maybe watched TV, went to sleep. What have I done? What have I done today that I can put on my chart and say, here, I've done something extra. Something that I've given, shared of myself. All we need to do is have that consciousness. Because most of us live in the world where consciousness is sort of very economical. It's not something that we do as a regular thing. We're not conscious. Have you ever driven your car talking to somebody and wound up at work or at home and it's sort of gone there by themselves? That's because most of the things we do are robotic. The teachings of the Zohar and the teachings in the center is one. That if we recognize that the reason that we exist is to change and alter the way that we think, that every sharing actions are the ones that count, that every time we meet another human being, he has something to do with our lives, that we can draw the teachings and make them real. Tonight is very special in that not only do we have the death anniversary of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was an incarnation of Moses himself, but you know that he also learned with Elijah the prophet. Those magnificent souls, even though we may not feel them, are present with us, and more present for people that are with this type of a consciousness. And I'm not saying that the center is the only type of consciousness. I am saying it's probably one of the only places where we teach that each individual, irregardless of his modality of prayer, is equal in the eyes of God. And that God, whatever name you want to place on him, or however you want to pray to him, or however you want to feel your devotion, that's your own thing. But as far as the center is concerned, the idea of learning to respect with human dignity and kindness every human being is very important. And then in the morning when we wake up and before we go to sleep, we should figure out how much we truly did with that day, how much we encapsulated the consciousness of our actions, and by so doing, bring about the final redemption. Chag Sameach.